ഭാരതത്തിൻ്റെ സൗരപര്യവേഷണ ദൗത്യമായ ആദിത്യ L1 വിക്ഷേപിച്ചിട്ട് 2 വർഷം കഴിയുന്നു. ഇന്ന് ആദിത്യ L1ൻ്റെ തുടക്കത്തിൽ തൊട്ട് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആദിത്യ L1 എന്ന് പറയുന്ന പദ്ധതി ആവിഷ്കരിച്ച വ്യക്തി നമ്മളോടൊപ്പം അതിഥിയായി ചേരുകയാണ്. തിരുവനന്തപുരത്തെ ഇന്ത്യൻ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ഓഫ് സ്പേസ് സയൻസസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജിയുടെ വൈസ് ചാൻസലറായ ദിപാങ്കർ ബാനർജി. അദ്ദേഹത്തോട് നമുക്ക് ആദിത്യ L1ൻ്റെ ഒരുപാട് വിശേഷങ്ങൾ ചോദിച്ചറിയാനുണ്ട്. നേരെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ അഭിമുഖത്തിലേക്ക് കടക്കുകയാണ്. വെൽക്കം സർ. വെൽക്കം ടു JanamTV.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving me a very good chance to interview you. And first of all, from the beginning itself, I have to ask you, what are the number of experiments that you have done with Aditya L1? And you have a lot of data regarding the sun and solar corona and solar emissions and all those things and solar stars and all those things. So, what are the results that you can share with our audience and our people? What are the results that can be and what are the addition that can be made in our science and technology world?
So Aditya L1 is an observatory class mission. So that means, it is almost a full-fledged observatory in space. So it has a provision of multiple instruments. And as you mentioned, we are fortunate to have a multi-wavelength, capable instrument. So for example, we have a combination of 4 remote sensing. That means, we have gone to a location called Lagrange 1, which is about 1.5 million kilometers away from Earth, and we are continuously looking at the sun remotely. So there are 4 remote sensing instruments. One is this, near UV full disk imager. Then the biggest instrument on Aditya L1 observatory is the coronagraph, which is called the visible emission line coronagraph. And as you indicated, the coronagraph artificially blocks the solar disk light, and then you can see the extended part of the solar atmosphere, namely the corona. So this coronagraph is primarily working in the optical region, and also it has an infrared channel. And we have also 2 X-ray spectrometers. So these 2 X-ray spectrometers are looking at very high energy flares. So flares are these explosions which happens in the solar atmosphere. There are smaller flares happening all the time, and there are bigger flares when such big explosions happen, then that gives rise to the big flares. Of course, the big flares are emitting lot of energy and particles, which becomes a hazardous creates a hazardous situation in our near earth environment. So those 4 remote sensing instruments, and then in conjunction we have 3 in situ instruments. So in situ instruments mean if something happens on the sun, these huge explosions or flares, that gives rise to solar storms. And storm means a lot of particles along with this material, they will travel through this interplanetary space and eventually can reach Earth. But before it reaches Earth, it has to pass through this Lagrange 1 location. Yes. So around that Lagrange 1 location, with these in situ instruments, we will be able to measure the properties of these particles, what kind of electron or other proton or other heavier ions it is there, what kind of energy they are carrying, what sort of magnetic field they are carrying. So because that estimation will allow us to know the impact of these bombardments when it reaches near Earth environment and say directly impacts our satellite or space assets. So that's the overall suite of instruments which we have. And as you have asked the question, we have tried to build this instrument a bit of complementary in nature with the existing space-based instrument. For example, NASA and ESA already have missions for solar observations. So they do not have certain wavelength observations or certain region of the sun which they are not observing. So we have tried to build instruments to primarily focus on those regions. Very near to the sun, our coronagraph is capable of detecting these huge explosions. So with the coronagraph, we have been able to really spot few of these such explosions. With the near UV imager, we are able to identify. Near UV imager is giving slightly lower in the atmosphere of the sun their source, where these explosions come from and so on. And that is very important to also understand their eventual impact when it comes, because the source essentially tells you how much energy is there, how much material is there, and so on. So with the SOOT instrument, we have been able to study these early phase of the, these explosions. We have been able to study the flares, and with these two X-ray spectrometers, we have actually detected many flares, hundreds of flares we have. So impact of these large number of flares with last 1.5 years of observation, we are still analyzing. The beauty of other thing is, this January, all this data which has been collected from different instruments from Aditya Observatory has been made open to the global community. It is just not that, it is only open to the Indian community. It is available to the global community as well.
It's like an open source information.
It is absolutely open source information. There are several terabytes of data actually available. And in future also, what we want is that Aditya Observatory will work along with other observatories, whether it is a ground based observatory or international space based observatory. We can have joint observation campaign. So this is what we have initiated now, and in near future we will have lots of these joint observation campaign, which will enable us to really study these huge phenomena comprehensively with multiple. You can see, you see the same thing from different vantage points. You see with different instruments. So when you combine all that information, you get much more comprehensive understanding.
Multi-dimensional understanding.
Multi-dimensional, multi-wavelength also we call it, because already we do have X-ray instrument, we have optical, we have infrared, near UV. So that already we have. And then along with that, other instruments, which is of course from different other space platforms, will really give us much more, new understanding. That's the plan.
Definitely, you have termed that all these data are in an open source. So how a common man can access it?
Yeah. So any person can actually go to the ISSDC. So there is a central data service portal for majority of the ISRO's science mission. The data is hosted in that particular site. So you have to go to the web portal and then you choose, whether you want to use Aditya data. There is also another astronomy mission called AstroSat. So you can choose which mission data you want to download or use it. Then you just create a user account, and then you say that this is my name, and for this simple purpose I am going to do it. Nobody is going to really stop you downloading. We want to record who all are actually using that data or what purpose, because eventually a sort of like accountability has to be there. And we want data to be used with as many people as possible. And then one needs to choose which instrument he or she wants to download the data. And then one can choose which date you want to choose the data. So there will be summary of the data availability, and then you will have also a quick look images which will give you an idea what was sun looking at that particular time, that particular day, and then you can download the data. I mean, these are science instruments, so you do need certain experience to be able to analyze the data. And for that also we have support cell. So Aditya support cell conducts regular workshops and training program, whereby you can go to those workshops and essentially gets a hands-on training on how to use the data. And in fact, you come with that data and you can actually approach some of the scientists who are already working on the project, and you can collaborate with them, or we can just take instructions from them how to analyze the data.
Definitely, many of young people are very much interested with ISRO, and even my audience, and when I am doing all these interviews and all those programs, the response are coming from very young students like 22 years, some such kind of. And definitely you will have many information regarding that. What is the very much interesting information that you can share with this young audience?
Yeah. So as you rightly said that this is a dedicated mission to study the sun and solar atmosphere. We call it solar variability, like how sun is varying with time. Sometimes there are variations within few minutes or days. Sometimes it is a variation over months or years. Sun also undergoes a long-term variability. We call it a solar cycle. 11-year periodicity is there. That has impact on our climate. That has impact our long-term climatic conditions. We have now understood that there has been in the past mini ice ages and so on. that we know that there is a direct link with the solar magnetic activity.
Yes, yes.
So these are many different events which do affect our day-to-day life. One also very important thing, a new field has emerged which is called space weather.
Space weather, yes.
So that is essentially to predict whether there is a solar storm going to be in the space, because you are so much dependent on space. You have all these satellites which can get damaged, your communication systems get damaged, your ionospheric conditions get disturbed by this solar storm. So your even ground communication, which uses the ionosphere for connecting from one part of the globe to the other part of the globe, that will get affected. Suppose you want to travel to space, at that time if there is a solar storm, you are directly impacted. So your your space station Gaganyatri, if wants to do some manual repair work around our own Bharatiya Antariksha station bus, that time we need to know whether there is going to be a solar storm, because if there is a solar storm, it's not safe to be moving around in empty space. So there are many such applications which I think in future going to be even more important for the space weather prediction. And space weather prediction demands the understanding of the solar variability. So for youngsters, I think they have to of course realize that there is a combination of your search for understanding physics or the environment and atmospheric science, along with the societal direct impact.
Yeah.
Because we are really dependent on our GPS system. So space is going to be I think the future for our existence and our day-to-day comfort in life, even our safety in life. You know how important is the surveillance is required for national security as well. So space really do have, and I think now across the globe people have realized if there is important things that are happening from space in terms of even surveillance, and that time a solar storm happens and your satellite communication gets damaged, it is going to be quite important.
Okay. Could you give some little bit information regarding the solar storms and solar weather and all those things? Could you explain that?
Okay. So the solar storms are these phenomena which happens in the solar atmosphere. So we have a huge magnetic structures on the atmosphere of the sun. So these are called sometimes coronal loops. They are in the form of this kind of loop structure, and those magnetic structures, they become unstable beyond certain time and certain conditions, and when they become unstable, they explode. They are directly related with this solar flare phenomena, because flare is also this two different kind of magnetic connectivity forcing together and giving rise to this explosion, which is called coronal mass ejection. So solar storms are nothing but these coronal mass ejections. So coronal mass ejections are more scientific terms, and the solar storm is a sort of a terminology used to be able to become sort of get a visualization what happens in our storm kind of phenomena when it hits our coastal region or any region, what kind of damage it can cause. Similarly, this coronal mass ejection will carry this material along with magnetic field. We also, when they travel in the interplanetary space, we call them magnetic clouds. It is like a huge ball of cloud, and you can imagine within a magnetic cloud there could be thousands of earth accommodated. It is that big. And then these huge magnetic clouds which travel, when they impact not only Earth, other planets or the moon, we need to really understand the effect of it. In fact, some planets do not have atmosphere. Now we understand because of this huge amount of material which comes from the sun. So I was mostly talking about so far about this coronal mass ejection. Apart from that, along with that, there is also a continuous flow of material particle from sun, which is called solar wind. So the solar wind also actually disturbs our atmosphere. In the earth we have magnetic field, that's why we are here actually. If earth did not have magnetic field, we would not have existed.
There is no celestial bodies.
Yes, so our atmosphere would not have grown, because the solar wind will actually take away majority of our the planet's atmosphere. So in fact, there is search going on of life in other planets. We have discovered 5,000 plus planets in other galaxies and long distances away from us. We are always looking at, is there a atmosphere, Earth-like planet anywhere? If we can identify that there is an Earth-like planet, then search will be whether there is atmosphere in that, and then there will be question of the life, the way we define it, whether it is there or not. It's a natural big question in humankind.
Okay, definitely we have to attach all this information with the daily livelihood of daily lives of people and all the common men, because so definitely I have to go to the solar energy resources and solar energy, because this fusion energy, solar fusion energy is the coming century's energy. So what's the significance of the solar studies while we are observing energy generation, the solar energy points?
So it's a very good point you mentioned. So any star for that matter, it becomes a star when the thermonuclear reactions happens inside the core of this spherical body, and in the sun this fusion reaction is actually happening right in the core, and that is the source of all the energy. So our existence is again because of the solar energy. We will cease to exist if solar total energy output gets modified. In fact, I just was mentioning about this mini ice ages and all that. Now we know that during that period there was a slight reduction of the total solar energy output. Now the second question is how we utilize this solar energy for our purpose. So as you know, I mean, we are looking at all kinds of solar cell and how to utilize. Even in space you are only surviving because of the sun. If the sun solar energy, if you do not have the solar cell, the satellite is dead. So that way, of course, maximum utilization of the solar energy is the key for our future. So this is a continuous research. We are not making it the really next breakthrough in terms of energy conversion. We have come a lot actually. I mean, the electric vehicles are also now possible with just the solar cells and so on. So
solar boats are launched.
Yeah.
2 days before, we had information that when our Prime Minister went to Japan, the Chandrayaan 5 mission will be a joint mission with Japan, and it is about the study of the water content in the moon. So what kind of study that would be, and what's the information you have in that regard?
Yeah. So again, as you pointed out, I am not a subject expert on lunar explorations, but this is part of the solar system. So we all have some amount of knowledge, which is probably I can explain with that basis. So we have already 2 lunar missions, approved missions. The Chandrayaan-4 is a sample return mission. So we are going to land and sun and going to extract samples from moon, and then those samples will be returned back, and we will do the study of the samples, analysis in the spectrometers and so on, which will give us insight also about the internal subsurface structure, possibilities of mineralogy and all that. And as you indicated, the collaborations with the Japan is called the LUPEX mission. So that's we are expected to provide the lander. So with our successful landing on the moon, I think globally we have got a huge recognition, and even a advanced space agency like JAXA has sort of collaborating with ISRO to essentially get this lander. But what I understand is, apart from the lander, of course there will be rover, and the rover will also have a slightly longer life, because our rover had a short life on moon. So here in this mission they will have a possibility of much deeper spectroscopic study, and all these whether the existence of water molecules are there and other mineral studies and all that will be little more if you can be there for longer.
Okay.
So that's the plan as it stands now, as I understand. The rover will have many more instruments with much wider capabilities of doing this spectrum analysis.
Okay, and definitely we have Mars mission, we have a lot of other missions also. What's the importance and significance of this solar study while we are going through the Mars mission and other extracelestial body missions? What kind of information, what kind of influence we can get to continue this research by the data that we have collected from this Aditya L1?
Okay, so it's a good point that planetary mission has been the sort of first step towards space missions in the developed part of the globe. We were fortunate to even have a AstroSat mission, which is a dedicated astronomy mission. You see, what happens is why you need to really look at the sky and beyond is because certain conditions you only see it in the other other bodies or atmosphere or interstellar medium or other galaxies. And there are lots of other physics questions also which you can get answer only when you look at the universe as a whole. So in terms of the planetary missions, planetary trajectory and all that, the solar any mission experience contributes. Like Aditya L1 is also another very important our indigenously built Atmanirbhar Bharat example, because all the instruments are built within India in different ISRO centers and in academic institutions. So there have been very good examples of academia and Department of Space's collaborative effort. So all these are enabling us to moving into the next level of sophistication and improvement. Like for the first time we built certain mirrors, first time we built certain cameras in India. That also gives you confidence of building the next level of instrumentation. So for the planetary missions, as you said, of course one is the reaching to that long distances, getting into the gravity of that particular planet, all that exercise, the dynamic part of it, building bigger rockets. So those are technology demonstration and technological challenge. The other is a science challenge, building instruments and more sophistication in the instrument. There is also another element which comes into the space domain is the technology demonstration, because first time you actually try out something new. In fact, ISRO has a certain platform called POEM. Every 6 months, there is an opportunity. You can build small payloads, even nano satellites and micro satellites, and you can send them across with the 4th stage of the PSLV, and they are there for a few hours to days, and you can try out a new technology, new devices, new operating system. So in fact, since you asked the question, at IIST we have this particular lab is space where the small satellite training center, our own students build such we call it prototype instruments, and those prototypes are tested first time in the space. So since you mentioned that how is the link of the Aditya mission with the future space missions from ISRO, it actually is enabling us to go to the next level. Operationally, of course, it is also going to provide us some insight on the space weather conditions. So those knowledge, those guidance will help us in our selection of when it is suitable to go for the launch. And even if you have a huge storm, whether your trajectory can get changed. So this is what all space weather effects also we call it can be helpful.
Sir, very much interested and very much whatever to say, that's very much thoughtful time I have spent with you. So I need to know something personal with you. So how did you got the interest to search about the sun?
Yeah, this is actually quite an interesting story. I studied physics in my undergraduate, then I did my master's in that too in solid state physics, plasma physics domain. And I came for an interview in Bangalore, in the Institute of Science. And there were both choices of studying astrophysics and physics. I was actually selected in the astrophysics program, and I didn't have any exposure to astronomy. So this is about early 90s I'm talking about. And then since I was more exposed to classical physics, So solar physics, appeared to me more connected with my interest and so on. So that's how I chose to do PhD on the subject on solar atmosphere. That was the beginning, but again things do change. I was more of a theory person. I was doing more theoretical calculations and all that. Then after my PhD, I went to Europe for my postdoctoral experience, and I was hired for a project for SOHO. SOHO was actually the first Lagrangian mission from European Space Agency. So I was a postdoc under the SOHO mission, and that allowed me to look at more observational data. So then it became the combination of your theoretical understanding and handling with a lot of this data analysis. So I enjoyed very much that, and then after 7 years living in Europe, I returned back. I joined the institute in Bangalore called Indian Institute of Astrophysics. But then, accidentally this concept of the solar mission was floating around. That was almost 20 years back from now. It takes a long time. So since then I got involved with the Aditya mission.
ഒരുപാട് അറിവുകളാണ് അദ്ദേഹം നമ്മളോട് പങ്കുവച്ചത്. ദിപാങ്കർ ബാനർജിയോട് നന്ദി അറിയിക്കുന്നു, ജനം ടി വിക്കും നമുക്കെല്ലാവർക്കും വേണ്ടി. താങ്ക് യു വെരി മച്ച് സാർ.
Thank you for this opportunity and your time. Thank you.